Well, we are on the air everywhere. WeatherBrains episode number 471 for the 2nd of February. This is the pre-show. Marvelous time of the show where we share boring personal stories, personal anecdotes, and try our best to get our act together. Rarely does that happen, but we try. And we are about 5 minutes away from showtime here. Uh-oh. Hang on here. I'm hearing myself coming back. I had live.bigbrains.media punched up.
That's good for an echo.
Yeah, the latency is about 10 seconds there. That's kind of funky. So we got Bill Murray attempting to get our guest on the air, and I see John and Aubrey. Aubrey is not in an edit booth.
I'm not. I decided to come home.
Okay. Cool.
I wanted to see the little one. Say hi, Bear. Say hi. She's just scavenging for pretzels.
I should bring one of our 2 black cats in from the parking lot out here.
There you go. We'll have a pet show.
To my knowledge, those cats have never been indoors at any time in their life. They would freak. Those are total outdoor cats. They have a little house out there with blankets. They're very content, and they're just. If they were on a farm, they'd live in a barn. They would be great barn cats. But everybody here feeds them and gives them treats, and they're just like getting overweight and spoiled. So Rick is out. I know Brian is out. Brian is teaching a spotter class tonight. Nate should be here. We got Bill here, who's attempting to be our guest on the air. And that's all I know. It has been quite a day here. So the dog's name is Bear, right?
Bear, yes.
Bear.
That's my little bear.
Little Bear.
She's getting very well known across the Shenandoah Valley.
That dog looks totally pampered, spoiled, rotten. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, she is. What do you say, Bear? I was actually stopped in TJ Maxx yesterday by a lady saying, "You just moved to the area. I've seen you walking your dog around." It was really funny.
Did you tell her that you're kind of a big deal?
She goes, "Besides, I know who you are." I was like, okay.
I'm kind of a big deal, like Ron Burgundy.
Bear thinks she's a big deal.
So if we get Nate on here, and Bill said we have just one guest, so this could be.
Oh, well. It's a good guest, though.
Who I don't even know who. I never saw the email. I'm not privy to.
Well, he just mentioned Paul Cosin, but I haven't seen any email on him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Paul and I work together at the Weather Channel.
Cool. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting show. Our producer is out of pocket, the guy that typically edits the audio version, which means I get to edit the audio version tonight. It would be a total disaster. You have to take the 2 audio tracks. You know, I record my track and then the Hangout track, and then you have to mix that down and add some audio processing and stuff to get some of the grunge out, the funky noises, and boost the bass a little bit. And then run it through a limiter, and goodness, then you have to post it through Libsyn, which is our provider. Hopefully, I have not done this in probably 2 years, so we'll see if I can remember. And then Brian is out, so I got to do the show notes again on the website. So I am the website guy and the audio editor guy tonight.
You're the guy.
Yeah, I'm just the technical director here.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but she stands like a gopher, and she stands just kind of on her hind legs, and she'll stand up.
We could just show some pictures of Bear. Oh, I hear the cuckoo clock.
That must be 9:30, or just.
It's got to be 9. It's 9:30 because the cuckoo clock went off. All right, we got Nate on here.
Oh, good girl.
Nate, the show is going to the dogs. We're barking up the wrong tree.
As good a place as any for it to go.
Exactly. Hey, your video is like fuzzy, like out of focus. Focus, focus. Wipe that thing down, man. What, you been spitting on that thing or what? That's creepy. That's like really creepy. Wow. That's beyond creepy.
Did I see right? Was Nate on a plane today?
Yes, not in the air, sadly, but we had fun nonetheless.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's a high-end aircraft.
Yeah. That's a pretty bird.
Oh, yeah.
That's a little more better there. Yeah, that was amazing how all that came together. I can explain during the show if you want, but it was pretty cool how it all came together. Sort of a lot of different things making it happen.
Cool. Once we get a thumbs up here from Bill. Bill's got that look like he has gas on his. Whenever he has that look, you know we're in trouble here. It's the I have gas look. I mean, he has a look of horror, a look of total horror on his face there. Wow.
He's like, I'm on with these people? Who are these guys?
Now he's ordering a pizza. I'll have a pepperoni and mushroom and sausage with olives. Yeah, our guest is on one of our WeatherBrains accounts. So as soon as Bill kind of gives us a thumbs up, we'll start the audio show. We're going to talk, I think, about the snow events.
Oh, yeah.
There should be a lot to talk about tonight.
What snow events?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. Not here.
Yeah, we keep getting missed.
So,
everyone's asking, we gonna get a winner?
Yeah, I get that all the time. When's it going to snow down here, man?
Yeah.
Hey, man, when's it going to snow here?
Think about where you live.
I'm about to say, let's review the latitude of where I happen to be and what you are looking for. You are living in the wrong place. No, this Chicago snow is good, man. That was a good one.
Oh, yeah.
They were buried. Wow. And Boston, now they've gone over 40 inches. With these two storms, that's huge, man. They're going to be digging out from this thing through June.
Yeah.
There'll be snow drifts at Fenway in July. I typically go up there every August just to watch some baseball, and I have never been to Boston in the winter, but maybe I should go. I think every weather geek loves a storm like that. Just to sit back and enjoy it. You don't have to work it or anything. I would love to be trapped in there just to enjoy a good old-fashioned northeast snowstorm blizzard.
Yeah.
But then they would call you and want you to go live.
Yeah. Matt, could you do a live shot for us?
Can you do a phoner?
Yeah, phoner. No, it's that was a good one. I have not had a chance to watch the Weather Geeks from the Weather Channel. They talked about this Sunday. Marshall and I think we had somebody from New York from the Weather Service and broadcast, and somebody with somebody else. Bill, what you got going on there? We having any luck?
James, will you resend the notification, because I do not see it over there to that WB Guest 1 account, WB Thing 1.
Okay.
I'm physically looking at Paul's screen and I can't see it.
I'll invite guest 2. I've invited guest 1.
Invite all the guests that you can.
Guest 2.
Multiple guests.
So we have both of our guest accounts invited now.
All right, let's see. We have Paul on the phone here. I do not want this to be a phone interview.
You got to hold the phone up to your microphone. That'd be the old-fashioned way of doing it.
Yeah, that might work. That might work. I'll put him on speaker.
Welcome to our cable television viewers that are watching. I notice you have joined us. We are, as usual, running slightly late. We have never. Well, I take that back. I think we started the show on time twice. This is episode 471. 2 of those 471 episodes were started on time. So. If you're watching us on cable television in my market, it's Monday night. You know the deal. We do the show here about weather, and we typically start soon, and this is the pre-show. We'll be starting very soon. But thank you for watching. If you're watching us on the cable side, and we have a lot of people watching on the YouTube side. And just hang on here as soon as we get. Oh, look who's here! Kev is here. Kev, you're tardy. What's up?
Hi. I'm a little under the weather today, and then I had some connection problems, so no one kiss me.
You hear that, Bear? No kisses.
Show title. Let me write that one down. So what's up? What you got? The grunge?
I don't know. I just had a sore throat. It's really dry and cold here. I thought maybe that was it, but then my sinus started bothering me, and so I don't know. I hope it's just a temporary anomaly.
But this is like the beginning of the ratings period. You can't be sick. That's illegal.
I'll plow through somehow.
Do you have a humidifier?
No. We need one of those. We have discussed that and not taken any action on it, of course, and now that I need it, it's...
And drink some ginger tea. Ginger is good for your immune system.
Really?
Yes, very good. If you want all the natural health stuff, you guys email me. I got a cure for everything.
Oh, wow, all right.
Wow. How about baldness?
Well, considering my husband is bald, I got nothing.
You got 3 guys on the show here with nothing up here. I mean, we
that means I love you. That means I like you guys.
Okay. And I still say Dr. John's wearing a toupee. That cannot be real hair. I mean, nobody should have hair that looks that good. It's unbelievable.
It's the real deal. I keep telling you, it's the real deal.
Next time I see John, I just feel like I want to pull that thing off, go whoop, and see if it comes up, Yeah, we're waiting on Bill. For those that are watching and on the pre-show here, as you can see, Bill is working his phone there. And as soon as we get our guest online, or we could just start the show and do it ourselves. And in fact, if Bill is not ready to go here in 3 or 4 minutes, we'll just start the show anyway because we are somewhat interesting people.
Speak for yourself.
How about to say,
have you met
we're
us?
very boring people. Kevin, I sense there's something on your mind. Just say it.
No, I'm typing up a special tweet that I'm going to put out in just mere moments here. So I'm concentrating on something else.
You think before you tweet? That's unheard of.
I'm mostly just trying to. We got this Teespring thing, right? And we were talking here in the office the other day. We think we're going to put out a shirt that says, "Sometimes I need 141 characters."
That's good. So I think I figured out. I've been wondering what consultant goob has been telling television weathercasters to say "track" and "tracking" every other sentence.
Oh, who?
It's Frank Magid.
Wow.
Frank Magid. All the Magid stations, they have been ordered to say "track" or "tracking" about every sentence.
Because we're all supposed to be the same.
Yeah, I mean, you can immediately find those Frank Magid stations.
We have a bump that says "always watching, always tracking."
See, there you go. I mean, it's.
So apparently, I'm constantly tracking.
See, like I've seen stations, their logo, "We track storms." So what do you do when there's no storms? You just go home or
You track air. You
We
track
track the
airplanes,
wind.
James.
We track the sun.
No, this is what you used to say. It's subsidence tracking.
Yeah, the subsidence chasing. We had a subsidence chase team that was organized. We also had a fog drizzle chase team. J.B. Elliott was in charge of those.
What do? They gather up a bunch of people in a room, give them some pizza, and they run words past them and say which one means the most to you, and tracking one. Okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, apparently they went into the Walmart and a bunch of people said, "Ooh, if you say track or tracking, we're going to watch your station and nobody else." So now every word out of there, but we're tracking this line of storms. To track it, watch tonight at 10 on our tracker, storm tracker.
Threat tracker.
Yeah, anytime one of these consultant goobs goes wild with these words, I just ban them. I will never say that on the air. Track or tracking.
I think what we need now is a new segment and we can pawn this off on maybe Dr. Scala, since he doesn't have his own regular segment, and he seems to be above the phrase, sciencey, classy guy, unlike the rest of us. We need a tracker.
Yes.
And so
Perfect.
have Dr. John track all the stations that are tracking things, and let's see
it.
all of the things that we can track.
That'll be the segment on consultant goobs.
It's going to be like global warming. You didn't know the things that it could do.
I just registered trackertrackingtracker.com.
There you go. That's going to take you right to the top, pal. I'm telling you, you are going to own the market in a matter of weeks with that.
www.trackertracker.com.
Let's go, man.
This is, by the way, I have to mention this because it fits. Completely unrelated to weather, but for a period of time, we had a station dog here at WREL.
Station.
It was a dog. It was a pet of the week, and everybody fell in love with it. And so we're like, all right, let's figure out how to make this work on TV. And so he would come and do fair appearances. It actually, if you're ever going to have a station dog, and I was very hesitant at the beginning, it worked really, really well here because we were very measured with it, with him, very measured with how we did it and everything else. But the dog's name was, and this was before we had talked to Magid, Tracker.
There you go.
All right, Kevin,
There
how
you
about
go.
on the shirt? On the shirt, we could say, "Watch me track this."
Wow.
WeatherBrains, track this.
Just track this. Yeah, that's what you should have.
Track this.
2 words.
Let's get this thing started because if we don't get started, we'll be up here all night. Yeah, I'll be up all night anyway because I got to edit this show. So here we go. I record track 1, record track 2, and here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Whether it's a tornado or just some rain, WeatherBrains. Whether it's snow or a hurricane, WeatherBrains. Informative and fun, sometimes absurd. It's a show for all you weather nerds. WeatherBrains.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, WeatherBrains.
Hey, you know what time this is? It's time for WeatherBrains, the weekly show all about weather. This is WeatherBrains episode number 471 for Monday, February 2nd, 2015. Got a lot to talk about involving snow and winter storms. It'll be a good show, so get ready.
Informative and fun, haven't you heard? It's a show for all you weather nerds. WeatherBrains.
One more time.
Oh yeah, WeatherBrains.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are excited to be here. We've had a wild week of weather across the nation with a series of big snowstorms over the northern states. We'll talk about that. My name is James Spann, and we are 471 shows into this. Kevin, can you believe that? Goodness, 471, and they said it wouldn't last.
I was looking at that the other day, and it seems as though there should be some sort of event to mark 500, don't you think?
I think so. I think we ought to get maybe Dr. John or you or Nate to, I don't know, drive a big RV around the country with a lightning bolt, flashing on the top. We could just go. We could have the summer of WeatherBrains or something.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea. A big road trip.
For those that don't know, Kevin Shelley is in Wichita Falls, Texas, where tonight it's probably a bit cold, huh?
Yes, boy, our temperatures are really just up and down the next couple of days. We're going from high, I think it was only upper 30s, near 40 today, and then we'll be near 60 tomorrow and just ahead of the front on Wednesday, then low to mid 40s on Thursday, and by Saturday back up in the low 70s. So it's pretty nuts here.
Well, that's good for job security, though. Wild weather
that's true.
swings means that you need a weather guy. So
That is a good point.
And we're getting we can almost see spring here. I mean, we're still kind of in the dead of winter, but it's a few weeks away before you know it. We're going to be close.
I like it.
Yep. So, Kev, glad to have you with us. And let me just say we got a couple of absentees, as we typically do. Brian Peters is actually teaching a storm spotter class tonight. And Rick Smith is on the road and he is out tonight. But I think everybody else is here. Nate sucking down that cheer wine.
It's tasty stuff. It's been a day.
Sucking it down. Sucking it down. What's happening in Raleigh?
Well, we had a windy day today, but I don't know that I cared all that much. And I say that because I had a fun day. I got to go on that.
Oh man.
Oh,
This is the Gulfstream 5 that's in car, and I didn't get to fly in it. They're NSF rules, but I did get to tour it and had a chance to take a look around and meet a couple of the project manager, lead scientist on a nor'easter project. This plane was at RDU today, and so I got to combine a lot of things I like, weather and science and research and plane spotting, and I got paid for it. Woo. I'm telling you, this is the life.
So did you get to go up in the cockpit?
I did not. We were, by the time we actually made it out onto the ramp, we had to, I thought we had clearances from the airport, and then the FBO were like, no, we need to talk to public, we need to hear it from public affairs directly. My word wasn't good enough, and da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, by the time we got there, we had pretty much just enough time for just the business and just the facts, and that was it. But it was still a very, very fun little visit, had a very good time, and we'll talk a little more about that. My pick of the week is the write-up of that. So. Okay,
cool. I'd like to hear more. Dr. John Scala's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and you're just kind of south of the snow band, aren't you, John?
Yeah, we were. We had a really impressive frontal passage today, though. I'm going to put this up here so you can see it. I'm using the enhanced data display that NWS has. And see if you're smart, people. Let's see if you can spot the frontal passage.
Yeah. Whoops.
Whoops. Look at that baby.
Wow. Goodness. It's like a you went in the tank in a hurry there. Wow.
Oh, we sure did. So you're saying maybe spring is just a little bit away? Not up here.
Yeah, but saved all the snow up there. I was saying in the pre-show, there's going to be snow piles at Fenway Park in Boston in July.
Yeah.
Goodness
the
gracious.
Storm that went through Chicago and then across Indiana. My sister lives in Granger, which is just outside of South Bend. And she was texting me yesterday saying, you can't believe how much snow's coming down here. Yes, I can. I've been looking at it.
By the way, the chat room has figured out that our show number 500 will be on August 24th, in theory.
Oh.
Ooh.
So these guys are good. So come
That's
August.
an anniversary day.
Yeah, that'll be the show number 500. But we ought to give away something special.
That or let's all just meet somewhere on the beach.
Ooh.
We'll do a whole big combined show.
I like that idea.
WeatherBrains from Sandestin.
Yep.
I like that. So Aubrey Urbanowicz, you are now in charge of the beach remote for August. Hey, listen, man, this is exciting. For us, we're going to be empty nesters for the first time in 30 years. We're not going to have a child in our house.
Wow.
Our youngest graduates in May, and hey, I'm ready, man. Let's take some trips. Let's go.
I'm to Virginia. We'd be happy to have you in the Shenandoah Valley.
Oh boy, the Shenandoah Valley is so gorgeous.
In the fall, yeah.
And traditionally, when I'm going through there, I'm going somewhere and I don't have time to enjoy it except just kind of looking out the car, driving through. And I rarely get a chance to go in the fall when I guess it's really good up through there. But, Aubrey, you have missed the snow as well.
Yes,
where you are,
yes.
Right?
We were just south of the snow. We had quick little burst last night as temperatures dropped a little bit. We ended up with a very, very, very light dusting on the grass, and it didn't last long because it turned into rain and got a little bit of rain overnight. And our temperature, let's see, it was 38 at midnight. I don't have a fancy graph like Dr. John. It was 38 at midnight. We were 45 at noon today. And then we ended up dropping 10 degrees in 3 hours. And by showtime at 5 o'clock when I went on the air, we were 28 degrees.
Flash freeze.
Goodness gracious.
And windy, and super, super windy.
So Aubrey, how far away are you from Highway 81 and going up to Washington, D.C.?
Oh, 81, I'm like 3 miles, if that, not even.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we're going to be driving to Washington, D.C. for spring break, so we'll have to...
Oh, okay, yeah, you'll have to stop. Yeah, we'd be happy to meet you and have dinner, have you over the house, or whatever. I'll cook.
Well, we'll definitely do
Wow.
that. And James, I think Paul is here now. So,
Well, Bill, I'm about to say you take it over. Bring him in. Bring in our guest.
Wait.
I
I have breaking news first.
Oh,
Oh.
goodness gracious. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by because we have breaking news.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
CBS Radio.
You have 1 week. 1 week. We're not going to extend this one this time. 1 week to get the WeatherBrains T-shirt or hoodie, and I just tweeted out the notification with the best picture of the T-shirt that we have done yet. So go to my Twitter feed, Kevin Selly, and you can get the link to the WeatherBrains T-shirt till February 8th. It's only $20, and we will not extend the design on this one. This will be the original one. It will not return.
Wow. So this is like last chance dance.
Yeah, so all you guys got to retweet it.
I wonder where that picture came from.
I wonder where that
I just
picture
did.
came from.
And here, hang on here. I've got that picture. Stand by.
Yeah, I got it too.
For those that are watching it, okay. So
There
here we go. Everybody's got the picture now.
Yeah.
We have a
There it is.
we have a high fashion model.
Are you saying Aubrey was high when she took that picture?
I don't know what I'm saying. What is this? What is that behind you back there?
I think they call that art, James.
One's a piece of art. The other one is my curtain.
Okay. Well, I mean, come on. Now everybody needs after seeing this photo here, you've got to have one of these shirts. I mean,
It's
it'll make you look
super
that good.
comfortable. It really is. It's super comfortable.
Mm-hmm. We are in.
I wear mine all the time. I wear mine, doing the Weather Extreme videos. So
My father-in-law tweeted me. They're in, where are they, Cabo or Cozumel or somewhere, and he's sporting his WeatherBrains shirt on the beach where it's like nice and sunny and warm. So
awesome.
And we are deep into highly secret development of the next one, and it will be good. But this one only lasts until the 8th.
Wow. All right, Bill, bring in our guest.
Well, James, we've been scouring the Northeast looking for the best expert to have on the show tonight to talk about the snowstorm, and we got the best. That's Paul Cosin, who is, of course, former winter weather expert for the Weather Channel, works for NOAA at the HPC in Washington, and we're glad to have you on the show tonight, Paul.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I just want to shout out a hi to John Scala, who I haven't seen in ages.
It's
Hey,
been
John.
a while, Paul. How are you?
I knew we'd have to have a reunion and get it out of the way first. So, John and Paul, let's hear some memories of your days at the Weather Channel.
Oh, I distinctly remember it. Remember the big maps, Paul, that we used to put out there and analyze by hand? You with me,
Yes,
Paul?
I do.
Okay, yeah, and we used to.
I still get them. I can play.
I've got rolls of those in the basement, Paul. I couldn't get rid of them. I've still got them.
And Paul, it might be helpful if you move a little closer to your mic, and you can drop our phone connection now. I'm going to go ahead and drop it since we're nice and connected. We apparently the folks at NOAA don't like Google Plus, so it took quite an undertaking to get Paul on the air tonight. So appreciate you sticking with us, Paul. It's quite an honor to have you here. So John, you continue discussing with Paul about your Weather Channel days.
Well, Paul, you remember when you first started, we were doing a snowstorm that was hitting Chicago on January 1st. What year was that?
Oh, God.
Do you remember that?
1999.
Yeah, right.
16 years ago.
I remember
This is
that.
good stuff. This is good stuff. Keep going.
I remember that distinctly because WGN wanted me to do a Q&A live with them right before that storm hit Chicago. And so I went over to the radio side of the Weather Channel, and they plugged me in, and so I was answering phone calls, and there was a gentleman that got on there and said, okay, how much snow are we going to get in Chicago? And I said, well, there's some uncertainty with the forecast, so let's talk about what happens if the storm tracks over here. And he cut me off in mid-sentence. And he said, just give me a number. So I said 10 inches. And the next thing I heard was a click. He hung up. That's all he wanted.
Well, they had
That's
turnabout as
rude.
fair play last night, John, because they actually had Skillings on the Weather Channel. I noticed last night.
Oh, really? Yeah. Those are fun times, Paul.
Yes, although that particular day you remember, um, I arrived the night before, never had a job on TV, and the next day I had 2 hours of practice, and then I was on for the rest of the day, deer
Yeah.
in the headlights. So that was kind of a trial by fire.
Oh boy.
And boy, was that I couldn't keep a earpiece in my ears. Like, what is this? It didn't fit. I was wearing the wrong kind of shirt. Uh, I survived, barely,
Yes.
but I survived.
If it makes you feel any better, those earpieces don't get any more comfortable or natural.
No, I feel a lot better now. I don't have to wear one most of the time.
That's right.
Well, Paul, we're glad to have you here tonight because, of course, we've just gone through, Boston and New England has gone through one major winter storm and now going through a second one, finishing up tonight, and maybe some more in the future. So, talk about the first storm from a meteorological standpoint. From your perspective, what were some of the more memorable things about last week's storm for you?
Well, for me, what was most memorable was that I was off. So I got to enjoy watching this from the sidelines. You know what? I had a great time. I didn't have to get involved in that brouhaha about whether it was going to blitz in New York or not. So it was very interesting. And, I could tell you, oh, yeah, I only forecast 10 inches in New York. But frankly, I was kind of out of the loop, and I don't know what I would have forecast. But it was kind of an enjoyable event to watch unfold. So even though the location was not the greatest, the forecast of 24 to 36 turned out to be quite accurate, just not in every place they wanted.
So talk now,
storm.
Paul, you and Louis developed the RSI, right?
No.
What is your index called? Okay. Nessus.
It's called Nessus.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
And from that, a fellow by the name of Mike Squires applied it nationwide, and he created the RSI. There are some differences in the scale. I personally think mine's a little better. And it actually, I was wondering if you're going to kind of let me go with that or not.
Tonight is have a martini and keep going, Paul.
Well, I'll just first like to welcome you to my bedroom. That's where I'm talking from. I don't think I've ever conducted anything like this from a place like that. I will not show you around, but as soon as this interview is done, I am just going to lay back and fall asleep. So,
well, as long as you wait till the show is over, that'll be good. Paul.
You may not need until the interview is over, given the way we're going tonight.
Right. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, never mind. I'm very comfortable. I've got a pillow behind me. I've got a nice painting above me, and here I am. I've got a little drink of water so I can moisten up. I've got that raspy voice. And if you want, we can sort of get back to these storms.
That might be a good place. So go back and talk about have you already gone back and rated this storm on the Nessus scale?
Yes, actually I have. It's going to be somewhat disappointing. It only scored a value of 2.665, which is kind of low for a storm that was that intense. And the main reason is the scale takes into account three factors. How much snow over how large an area, and how many people. And it actually affected a relatively small portion of eastern New England. Now, had the forecast for New York had verified and we had that heavy snow line move farther and farther west, the score would have been higher, and much higher. But as a result, it only scored about a 2.65, sort of an average big one that's a Category 2 would have been a Category 3. The only reason it didn't was that even though very heavy snow fell, it was over a relatively small area. My guess is the scale for the storm that we just had today and yesterday, which is going to take into account all of the snow that fell across the Midwest, my guess is it'll probably score even higher. Not because the storm was necessarily more intense, but because the storm was much more widespread, even though the amounts were less.
So Paul, how does that rank in terms of the pantheon of storms for New England? Is it top 25? I know for Boston it was pretty high, right?
Well, I mean, the scale is sort of an area and population-based scale. I would say, you can look at just the amount of snow in Boston was one of the top 6. In Worcester, it was basically the heaviest snowfall on record. For a storm to dump 20 to 30 inches, it ranks up with the blizzard of '78, ranks up there with the blizzard of 2005. They don't get that much worse for that part of eastern New England. The only thing that sort of discounted this storm was part of the forecast failure was that the heavy snow did not fall farther west. So it actually hit a relatively small scale compared to some of these other storms. So that's why it didn't score quite as high.
So you mentioned the brouhaha.
Yeah.
And of course, the brouhaha is what's on a lot of people's minds. Comment on that if you can externally without you getting into how the sausage is made so much. But talk about how this forecast panned out.
Again, I have the advantage of looking back, and I wasn't involved in the process looking forward. So I've got the easy job. And apparently, there was an emphasis on looking at, sort of the outside upper edge of the forecasts. And rather than stating it more uncertainly, or in terms that, or of confidence, the upper limit for the storm system was based on a few models that gave this upper amount. Not all the models were predicting 25, 30 inches of snow for New York. There were other models that had backed off. It was part of problem, I think, with the New York office, and part of problem with the media sort of hearing this, what did you say we're going to get? And maybe some of the, if the storm comes up the way it might, they could get this 20 to 30 plus inches of snow. However, if it shifts a little bit to the right, or if it shifts to the left, that will change how much snow they're going to get. And I don't think that really got communicated very well, or it did get very communicated well, but it was the wrong message to communicate. There should have been more of a question that, if the storm heads on this track, we could get snowfall totals that amount. But if you're more on the western edge, which apparently New York was in most of the forecasts anyway, you had to look at it as sort of, well, here's the choice. The choice is, it's going to be a very big storm, or you're going to just miss out. That's easy to say now, but I think in looking back at some of the forecasts, I think there was a little bit of enthusiasm to kind of pick the models that showed the upper end of the forecasts, and that turned out to be a big mistake. So, it's kind of odd that here's a storm that dumped 10 inches of snow in New York that's considered a disappointment. Normally that would be a big deal. And meanwhile, a few days in advance, we're talking about a storm that on average would dump between 24 and 36 inches. Well, how much fell across eastern Mass and northern Rhode Island and those areas? 24 to 36 inches with blizzard conditions. Nantucket had wind gusts between 60 and 70 miles an hour for hour after hour. Many hours of blizzard conditions. So the general overall forecast is actually pretty good. Unfortunately, the placement, as they frequently are, was a killer. And we always have problems with transitional areas. And the transitional areas can be where the rain-snow line is, but the transitional areas also can be at the edge of the storm, where it's either heavy snow or not so heavy snow. And that was the case in this one.
So, Paul,
So,
you mentioned some, perhaps overzealousness. Would that be because of least regret forecasting, or a little wish casting on the part of some
well,
forecasters?
I think it was. That wouldn't surprise me, but at the same time, I would think there was a belief that the European model, which was the one this time, remember the European is the one, it forecast sandy days and days before the American model, the GFS, actually hooked onto the left-hand turn, that there's been sort of a notion that the European is the most reliable. Well, that kind of put that to rest, and in this case, it was not. And the problem was that it was consistent. There were consistent forecasts that the heavy snow would be farther west across New York into New Jersey, and it just turned out, we look at a lot of models, it just wasn't right. So, and there were other models that sort of agreed with it. So, we play sort of it's a new game when we're looking at forecasting now. It's looking at lots and lots of solutions and trying to make an educated guess as to which one is more correct towards a solution than the others. And in this case, there was the belief that the European was probably more representative of what would more likely happen. Then we also had there's a new American model, the GFS model. That's a new version, so we don't have a lot of history in looking at that model for a long, wound up performing better. It didn't give New York all that much snow.
Did we lose Bill?
Did we lose
Did
Bill?
I lose something
Yeah.
here?
Hey, Paul, let me ask you this while we try to regroup with Bill. The uncertainty is a big factor in this forecast, as it should be with every forecast. But do you think we need to move towards a probabilistic presentation now for the public? Are they ready for that? And is that something we should be moving towards?
You're talking to me, John, right?
Yes, Paul.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're definitely ready for that. I don't know if the message is being crafted successfully yet. When it's not being crafted successfully, then of course nobody's ready for it. If you can't hear it, you can't hear the uncertainty and the subtlety in that, then you can't get the message across. And I think there's going to be a lot of time and effort trying to hone the skill of being able to communicate those differences to the point where the average public can understand, that's what they're saying. So I think, like in retrospect, with the New York storm, it could have been presented with, we're pretty confident in places like Eastern Long Island and New England. We don't have much in the way of uncertainty there. We're pretty confident it's going to be a big storm, probably many places greater than 2 feet. However, again, it's retrospect.
Sure.
Along the edge of that, there is sort of a zone of uncertainty. If it goes too far left, too far right, snowfall amounts could drop off. That area where we're uncomfortable with and we're not quite sure, we would like to say that's New York City, that's New Jersey, that's Philadelphia. In Washington, D.C., there we're pretty certain you're not going to get very much at all. So there are parts of this forecast that are we have a lot of confidence. In those areas, no snow, a lot of snow. but there are also parts of the forecast where we don't have a lot of confidence, and that's where we want you to know to watch out. It could be very heavy snowfall, but it could also be what we'd call a forecast bust, where we don't get very much at all. And sometimes there are just subtle differences that can determine that. And here is the area where we're seeing that uncertainty, that problem. So, I mean, I don't know if that's, I know in my own head, that's probably how it could have been communicated. It's not easy to do.
So Paul, how much do you think Hurricane Sandy played into this situation? Do you think at all?
There was some overlap. It's not just Hurricane Sandy. I think there's just a perception amongst some meteorologists, some of which is not just perception. In the long range, typically the European and the European ensembles have a better track record because they just have had, the Europeans just have a lot of money devoted to going into that one model for the medium range being greater than 3 or 4 days. So in that regard, I think the model has a better record. However, in the shorter scales, like 1 to 3 days, I'm not quite so sure that it actually does. And it's certainly being proven that it is not necessarily the model to go to in the short range. At least that is right now. So it's all, there are studies, but there are also perceptions. One model can't be, if it's consistently better every time, well, we might as well drop all the other models. That is not the case. And certainly for the blizzard that we just had, that was definitely not the case for that one.
So talk about how the suite of models have worked on this system that we're currently seeing exit the East Coast right now, Paul.
How did the models do for this one?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good question because I didn't work this past weekend either. I'm really a lucky guy. Although I did have to work on the storm
Paul's
on
agent.
Friday.
I appreciate the fact that the man knows how to take a day off. It's a beautiful thing.
I work on a schedule. Sometimes I work nights. If it's not my time, it's not my time.
Exactly.
It's my choice how much I follow it.
Take your time.
And, when the blizzard hit, I had some things I wanted to do. So I had plans. And I took those plans. Then I could always, when I got into work, it's like, I got to get some data to see what happened here. So.
Well, Paul, 48 hours in advance, we were looking at here in Lancaster, based on the ensemble forecasts, of 2 to 12 inches of snow with this storm.
That's not very helpful.
And clearly, not very helpful at all.
No.
How much did we get, Paul?
No.
1.
My
1
guess,
inch.
you're in Lancaster, John, right? My guess is you got 1.6 inches.
Yeah, it was 1.
And then some rain.
Well, we got the freezing rain and then some rain. So we had about 1/3 of an inch of liquid equivalent, which was about 1/2 to 1/3 of what was forecast. But the point is, early on, if I had issued a forecast that had some of the larger numbers in there, it would have been horrible. Absolutely horrible. So I stayed at the low end throughout the whole time.
Right. Well, welcome to the world of forecast. Now that we're talking about it, this particular storm started off to be like, oh my God, this could hit Washington, D.C. really hard.
Yeah, I never bought that.
There was a trend in many of them. It just kept going a little farther north, a little farther north, and a little farther north, day by day by day. That was a trend that turned out to be correct. I had a conference call with a lot of Weather Service offices back on Friday, where a lot of them were saying, I presented one possibility of a forecast, and they said, well, that's way too high. You've got too much snow in northern Illinois. At that point, they didn't expect it to be that far north or that heavy. And I had a little tiny bullseye of 12 plus. Turns out, of course, that was an under forecast. But this is the nature of the beast. When you get closer to the event, sometimes each storm presents itself differently. This one seemed to follow the path, now that we can look in hindsight, that it trended north. Slowly and surely, day by day, it trended north. And that's what actually verified. So where initially Washington looked like it was going to get snow, I was out, what was it, Saturday night? I saw a flake before it started to rain. New York then looked like, oh my God, they're going to be the center of the universe. And, again, lo and behold, New York became the problem child, where Boston, again, was the easy forecast. It looked like it was going to snow. It didn't look like it was going to rain. And it turns out the rain-snow or the freezing rain snow line came fairly close to Boston. It went through Plymouth, came probably within 20 or 30 miles, but it never did make it. So again, Boston was the easy forecast. New York, which went from snow to freezing rain to freezing rain to snow, that's not easy. That's very hard.
No, it's not.
It's hard to predict. Did you say no, it's not hard to predict?
No, it is hard. It's not easy.
I thought it was.
We've dealt with so many of those type of systems this winter here in Virginia, and they're not easy.
Right, all these transition areas are often very thin, and to have them move back and forth, it's really difficult. So in a sense, the forecasts we issued early in the weekend, or late last week, were too far south and too low. But gradually, over time, we could see that the trend was further north, and you adjust. That's all we can do. And I don't think the forecasts ultimately were really that bad. Because, I think New York City, for example, had a winter storm warning in parts of the city and had a traveler's advisory in other parts of the city. That actually turned out to be pretty much on the mark. There was more snowfall on the northern side and less on the southern side. Now, the details got mixed up, but in general, it turned out to be not a bad forecast. So there won't be the fallout from this storm that there was with the blizzard back in January.
So Paul, I saw that the previous snowiest 10-day stretch in Boston was 36.6 inches. So it appears that we've broken that record, right?
Well, I haven't seen the final total from Boston yet. I know they had about 20, close to 25 from the blizzard, and they reported 10 inches. Well, it snowed hard, hour after hour after hour, and I still haven't seen a final total for Boston. I wouldn't be surprised if the total from this second storm is something above 15 inches.
Yes, I saw a record for the day of 15.9, I think, for the day.
Yeah, Eric Fisher just tweeted
the
snowiest 7 days in history, 40.2 inches.
Wow.
Right.
That beats
that doesn't surprise me.
That beats the old record of 31.2 in '96.
It was 31.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was around for that.
Paul, does this appear to be setting up a trend for some more systems to come down the pike and affect New England also?
There are some models that earlier today, I can't speak for the models that are coming out tonight, that had suggested, there's a potential for another storm. There was, it's 3 or 4 days out. Let's just say that one grouping of models had a very interesting solution, again, it was the European, and another group of models, let's just call it the GFS, and the GEPS ensemble models, have a much less interesting solution.
I'm not sure I'm getting this code.
Yeah, so there's, needless to say, there's some uncertainty, as usual. But even if you have a consensus 3 days in advance, all the models are pointing to this one solution, doesn't necessarily mean that that solution is actually going to work out. But considering that we've just had 2 fairly interesting storms, the fact that there is another one trying to develop, and again, it looks like if it has some potential, it's back in New England. You know, hey, they got a good thing. Why not keep it going? You know, it looks a little interesting. Can it also produce nothing? Sure. We'll have a better idea with each set of model runs that we go through. You know, tomorrow night we might not be talking about this at all, or we'll be talking it up, but we'll see. I mean, I find that
so Paul,
stuff's kind of fun.
Talk for a minute about your childhood and how snowstorms, busts, and actual forecasts that exceeded expectations influenced your love for snowstorms.
Let's see. I remember 1960-61, which was one of the great winters in the Northeast. And when you're 5 and 6 years old, and you get a big snowstorm in December, you get a big snowstorm on Long Island in January, and then a week and a half later you get the biggest snowstorm, and you remember walking on these mountains of snow. I think that made quite an impression. And it just so happens that I was a child during the 1960s. You might want to associate that with hippies and flower power. I associate that with big snowstorms. It was a very good decade, and I actually developed this little thought that, you know, every winter we have at least one big snowstorm. And what that led to was in the 1970s was years and years of disappointments. And, you know, I just couldn't believe it. It's like, oh my God, we don't have this anymore. What's happening to us? The 60s were very good. Now, I assume the same thing is going on now after the year 2000, even though this is the days of climate change. I'm not going to go into the arguments. There's nothing to go into. Whatever's... yeah, that. Yeah, well, despite or because of that, there probably is... I'm not disappointed at all with what we've experienced since the year 2000. It just seems like getting these really, really big storms in the Northeast. There may be some consensus that they may be getting accompanied by heavier snow with time. That may be a function of climate change. Whether or not it is, the reality is there has been a lot of activity over the last 15 years that ranks at least as good as the 1960s. I'm liking it a lot. So
then do you think that the period of the 70s was...
I mean, here in Washington, we've gotten nothing.
So Paul, do you think that the 70s, dominated by a cooler period, may have influenced the fact that you had less snow?
I don't think it was necessarily cooler in the 70s. I think the 60s were cooler. 70s, I don't have much of an opinion, except late in the decade it got good again. But there was a period from the 70s through the 90s. It seemed harder to get the big storm than it was back in the 60s. And of course, in the 60s, it was a kid. But that all seems to have changed here after the year 2000. I seem to have recollection of giving talks of lots and lots and lots of these big storms that, with some exceptions, have been occurring with, I would say, an increased frequency. So I like it. I think others like it too.
So, John Scotland, you have any more Weather Channel memories or any northeastern snowstorm memories that you can banter about with Paul?
Well, Paul, you recognize this, right?
No, I don't know.
You don't know what this is?
It's in all our bookcases.
Yeah, on the back page, if you haven't looked here before, gang,
It's a bestseller.
Yeah, you see that picture of you, Paul?
Wow.
Down.
And look,
Down.
and there's Louie. Look at Louie with hair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looks like Tony Orlando.
Well, I have very fond memories of us working together those storms at the Weather Channel.
Well, if you hold that book up, I no longer have any fond memories.
Hey, Paul, what do you think about the Weather Channel naming winter storms?
Good question.
Oh, here we go.
Well, it's a very good question, and one because I work for the National Weather Service that I'm entitled to not answer.
Come on. Just say, we're just talking between us girls here. I mean, you're safe. We're among friends.
I'm not crazy about it. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about it.
Well, John, let's get what John says, since John's free. What do you say, John?
I had an interesting exchange with Tom Niziol about a year ago on this. I've known Tom for many years when he was at the Buffalo Weather Service office, and I was teaching in the SUNY system in upstate New York. I also know Ed Mahoney very well, so we go back several years. And I asked Tom, actually rather frankly, why are you guys doing this? Because it generates confusion among the public. I understand what you're after. Yeah, I do think there's some reason for doing this to gain attention, but I think it's a confusing trend that's taken place. And he thinks that there's a very strong, very positive reason for doing this in the sense that they're able to differentiate one storm from the next. And that's why initially the Weather Service started naming lake effect snow events. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but Buffalo started giving them names.
Wow.
I thought it was Tom. I don't think it was the Weather Service. I thought it was the Buffalo office that was naming them.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was the Buffalo
this may have been something that... Yeah, so it was just something that, Tom personally probably liked.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Even in Europe, they do name storms, not based on snowstorms or wind storms, but these giant windstorms that come across the Atlantic. So it's not like there's no precedence for it. I'll just say that, whether you call a name Juno or, Harry or Sammy or whatever is not descriptive. It doesn't, when I hear the blizzard of February '78 or the Cleveland Superbomb or some other things that point specifically to an aspect of that given storm, those specific aspects define something about that storm. Where a name like Juno, it's just a name.
Right.
All of these storms basically have a story and a personality in a sense. So I don't like it. That's all.
Yeah.
Simple.
And and again, I don't, I have a lot of friends who work at the Weather Channel, but I just don't watch the Weather Channel. I don't watch my channel, but I saw a lot of cartoon characters of Linus with a blanket. So apparently, was this last one called Linus?
Yes, it was.
See, that's the thing is I have people.
He's my Weather Channel guy. So I mean, that's just so you got a pretty serious storm, and it's all cartoons and jokes, and they're mocking the whole thing, and that doesn't make any sense. I mean, that stuff's got to stop. And here's the other problem I've got. Let me do a screen grab. So this was tonight. and you know where I'm going with this. This was on my channel on ABC. So, you know, every time there's a snow event, they use the same terms. It doesn't, and understand this one might be applicable, but every time it snows, they say the same thing. It's a meme. They say monster storm, millions in the path. They like to say that it struck without warning. You know, unprecedented biblical proportion. This stuff has just it's gotten out of hand. And I don't know if it's a consultant or you know, what is the deal? I mean, I guarantee it's unbelievable. We need to do a study on how many times national network news calls weather systems monster storms with millions in the path. It is numbing people. They see this over and over and over and over. They're not going to listen when there's actually a big storm like we've had for the past couple of times. And to me, this stuff, that's a problem right there. This is insane. All right, I'm through ranting.
That's why there's actually, we have to keep all of these storms in some kind of perspective. Not every storm is just as big and brutal as the last one, and we need something to be able to gauge what makes a big storm from, you know, a run-of-the-mill storm. And a lot of times that gets to be kind of complicated. You may remember right before the blizzard in January, 3 days before, there was another snowstorm that went up the East Coast. But it produced at most about 10 inches of snow, like 4 inches of snow maybe in New York, 5 in Boston. You know, there were news stories about monster storm, you know, this and that. That was a monster storm. Well, they can't all be monster storms. That's why, in part, we can come up with scales that Louis and I have come up to help distinguish one from another, at least in certain aspects. It can't capture everything, and this last case is probably a good example. Why wasn't it a hugely rated storm, this huge blizzard? And the only reason is since we only take into account how many people over how large an area and how much snow, it turns out that that storm did not affect as large an area, for example, as the one we just had over the last couple of days. The amount of territory that this storm over the last couple of days covered is enormous compared to the New England blizzard less than a week ago. So that's the kind of thing where the scale I have tries to distinguish that, you know, and it doesn't cover everything. Like, you know, it doesn't take care of winds, low temperatures, duration. There are so many factors that play into, you know, what's the impact of these storms? Does it hit at rush hour? Does it hit overnight? Does it hit a farm, an area where there's only a few people, but actually there's, you know, blowing snow? It's more amenable to your car getting stuck. There are lots and lots of factors. And, you know, the media just kind of, you know, they don't know, so they're looking for the least common denominator. I just want to hear somebody say it's really big, and then, I got it.
Well, Paul, I put up on the screen the Weather Service out of Chicago. This is their 48-hour estimate of the total snowfall across Chicago. Now, talk about an impact. This is going through a major metropolitan area. It produces 19.3 inches of snow. This is not a all time.
Yeah. Right. I mean, well, I shouldn't say destroyed, but huge impact in Chicago, huge impact in Detroit, much of the interior Northeast, more than 10 inches of snow, 15 probably plus in Boston. It's a big deal. You know, it's a really big deal. That's why it's probably, probably the most widespread, significant winter storm east of the Rockies we've seen this winter. You know, it probably has had the most impact on the largest number of people. You know, you wouldn't know that because they all seem to be that way. But for somebody, kind of knows this stuff, the one we just had, that was pretty good. It's going to get big numbers.
Well, one more question I've got, and we've got to do the recorded segments. I'm a little worried, when it comes to we're talking about these big storms affecting Chicago and New York City and Boston. What about the snowstorms that affect Grand Rapids, or the snowstorms that affect Grand Island, Nebraska, or Rapid City, South Dakota? They don't get a lot of attention, and I guess that's just the way it is. I've noticed the Weather Channel, they're going to jump on these things and name these storms that affect the big cities. Do you think that our friends in the rural parts of the United States get adequate warning for big winter storms?
I think they get adequate warning, but, the goal of the Weather Channel is to attract viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And if the storm is affecting an area where you may have a total of 500,000 viewers, as opposed to an East Coast storm where you have 50 million viewers, well, they're going to spend a lot of attention, and that certainly was the case when I was there. Send a live crew to North Platte, and it's like, no way, we are not sending a live crew. Things have changed. True. I was there. I think nowadays they will, just because visually, come on, send them to North Platte. It's going to make for a great live shot if it's really lousy. If the storm busts, at least you can look at Jim Cantori in New York, and, you can talk to people. But if you bust to North Platte, it's like, no place you can go. So I don't know if they certainly don't get the promotion from the media, because it just doesn't have the viewers. That's what it's all about.
It's all about viewers and all about money. Yeah. Well, Paul,
like
if you can't stay with us, we've got to record. We got to roll a couple of recorded segments here. We got Professor Peters. We're going to do picks of the week in a little bit. Everybody's going to have a pick of the week. We are going to have the email inbox and much more. So don't go away as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
The northeastern United States was impacted by a major storm system that resulted in blizzard and heavy snow warnings for a number of states from Pennsylvania to New Jersey to Maine. About 8 years ago, we took a look at the term blizzard, so in light of the recent events, it seemed a good idea to revisit the topic. According to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, a blizzard is a violent winter storm lasting at least 3 hours, which combines below freezing temperatures and very strong wind, laden with blowing snow that reduces visibility to less than 1 kilometer. The National Weather Service defines a blizzard when the following conditions are expected to prevail for a period of 3 hours or longer: sustained wind or frequent gusts to 35 miles an hour or greater, and considerable falling and or blowing snow, that is, reducing visibility frequently to less than 1/4 of a mile. Environment Canada, the government weather service there, has slightly lower requirements with wind of 25 miles an hour or more, visibility 5/8 of a mile or less, but the conditions must last 4 hours or longer. Even though some areas are more likely to experience blizzards than others, it is possible for a blizzard to occur in any location where there is snow and high wind. In North America, blizzards are particularly common in the extreme portions of the northeastern United States, the northern Great Plains in the United States, Atlantic Canada, and the Canadian Prairie provinces. Blizzard conditions also occur frequently in the mountain ranges in western North America. Alabama, home to WeatherBrains, came close to blizzard conditions in the superstorm of 1993, which dumped a record 13 inches of snow on central Alabama. Blizzard conditions often develop on the northwest side of an intense storm system. The difference between the low pressure in the storm center and the higher pressure to the west creates a tight pressure gradient, or difference in pressure between the two locations, which in turn results in very strong wind. Now, I always thought there might be a requirement for snowfall amounts, but in all the searching I did, there does not appear to be. It is interesting to note that the greatest snowfall event ever in the lower 48 United States was 63 inches at Georgetown, Colorado on December the 4th, 1913. The record for New York City is 26.9 inches on December the 26th, 1947, and for Boston it is a 27.6-inch storm on February 17th and 18th of 2003. The latest winter storm appears to come in fourth in Boston, according to the preliminary storm totals I was able to collect. The word blizzard has its origins in boxing, referring to a volley of punches. The word blizzard was first used to describe a brutal snowstorm that lashed the open prairie by O.C. Bates. Bates was the editor of the Esterville, Iowa newspaper, The Vindicator, and he couldn't think of a word forceful enough to describe the late blinding snowstorm in April of 1871. So blizzard was given meaning from that day forward. Now, weather and boxing. Now that is a punchy combination. Got a weather question? Drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, I'm Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook for the week of February 2nd. A pair of oppositions dominate the night sky this week. An opposition occurs when a planet lines up directly opposite the Sun, with the Earth in the middle. This week's first opposition occurs Tuesday the 3rd when the Moon lines up opposite the Sun, better known as a full moon. Like every full moon, it will rise at sunset, be visible all night, and set at dawn. The 3rd is also a cross-quarter day. This is a midpoint between the winter solstice and spring equinox in the northern hemisphere. This day was celebrated in the pagan festival of Imbolc and the Christian feast of Candlemas. Imbolc festivities also included watching for badgers emerging from their burrows, for an indication of whether or not winter would be sticking around. When German immigrants arrived in Pennsylvania, they brought this tradition with them, but groundhogs were much more readily available. This brought us the secular observances of Groundhog Day. Jupiter will be at opposition on Friday. About every 13 months, this gas giant catches up with Earth in its orbit, creating the Sun-Earth-Jupiter lineup. This geometry allows for a couple of cool things to happen. Jupiter will be visible all night, very easy to find, rising with the setting sun and setting at dawn. The planet will be at its brightest. Once Venus sets about 2 hours after sunset, Jupiter will be the brightest planet in the sky, very near the full moon. Jupiter will also be at its closest to Earth, about 404 million miles or 650 million kilometers. It will appear the biggest this year, and actually, by about half an arc second, the biggest it will appear until the opposition in June 2019. As you view Jupiter later this week, know that wherever it is, the Sun is directly opposite. So around midnight, as it reaches the highest point in the sky, the Sun will be directly under your feet. That's your astronomy outlook for this week. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Well, since we've done a 2-hour weather roundup, I don't think we need to go into it. You know, I mean, the whole show has been a weather roundup. Therefore, we're just going to roll right into the part of the show where we dig into the email inbox and find out what's on your mind.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
All right, that's me. So we have another email from our lovely friend Mary Alice in Hawaii. And she writes, no whining about being cold this time, but just to let us know it was 64 degrees this morning. And you may have seen this article, but in case you haven't, she posted an Examiner article about the almost perfect winter storm forecast from the blizzard of the end of January for New York and parts of New England. And it's a very, very, very good article. We need to, it's not my pick of the week, but we should probably post that up because it is a really it was just a really good article about the forecast and what to take, the takeaways from the forecast and what happened as the storm was developing closer to the actual storm, and how the forecast can somewhat change within just so many hours of the actual impending storm. And then, let's see, Reggie Deal sent in an email raving about our program and says, so my wife and friends call me a weather nerd. He discovered our podcast while having some downtime at work and listened to last week's program, and now he is hooked. So he sent us a couple of questions, and I believe John and you guys emailed him back and gave him some answers to what he was asking. So thank you, Reggie, for our new viewer and listener. So we appreciate that. And then we also got a listener survey from Napierville, Illinois. And our listeners suggest having on Paul Cervaka of the College of DuPage.
I highly endorse this product and or service. Paul would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we have in the email this week. If you have a question, guest suggestion, comment, would like to tell us what's going on in your area, weather-wise, please send us an email at weatherbrains.com. You can also find us on the Twitter at weatherbrains or on the Facebook at weatherbrains, and we would appreciate the follow, the like, and you can also follow us individually on there.
I love how you use the definite articles with all of those.
Of course. I don't disappoint.
All right, Nate, go, man. You got some news for us.
Oh, yes, there's a little bit of news. First off, the National Weather Association's election results for 2015 have been announced. The headliner, Dave Freeman from Wichita, Kansas, is the president-elect for 2016. Vice President Paul Schlatter, also known as Dual Paul on Twitter, potentially one of the greatest Twitter handles for somebody. Alan Gerard will remain treasurer. That's a 3-year or 2-year term, and a couple of new counselors as well. So congratulations to all of the new folks leading the National Weather Association. We appreciate your service. So we've had a number of articles, and I don't want to go through all of them, but we've had a number of articles talking about the Weather Service, including an op-ed or opinion piece, rather, in the Washington Post about who had the worst week in Washington, the Weather Service. And NBC called out the National Weather Service, and a number of these forwarded on, and we've talked about that, and part of the show this week was talking about those sorts of concerns. So we're going to have to deal with this going forward. And I think the other the other news item that I had was actually going to be someone's pick of the week, the Ken10 2015 workshop. So I will defer on that and let can't remember who's going to do that as their pick of the week, but I'll let you do that. If you have any news items for us, you can send them to me. Email at weatherbrains.com. You can find me on Twitter or Facebook.
All right, let's do picks of the week. This is where we go around. Everybody shares something weather-related. This can be a website, can be hardware, software, anything remotely related to weather. So let's start with Kev, since he's got to go on television here shortly. Kev, got a pick for us this week?
I do. Jon Stewart and The Daily Show did a fantastic takedown of the national media on this blizzard from last week, and they called it, what did they call it? Blizzpocalypse Geddon 2015, and it's 11 minutes of just really funny stuff, skewering the national media for their coverage.
Yeah, I saw that. That is funny. I'm afraid if we play that here, we'll be yanked off YouTube or something. But you just we'll have a link up on the website weatherbrains.com. That is funny stuff.
It was well worth it.
All right, Aubrey, what's your pick of the week?
Mine is, and I totally forget the site, but it is you can enter in your location, and it gives you how many daylight hours you have, so you can track how much more daylight you'll see the closer we get till spring, and I'm so excited for every minute we get each day.
I'm telling you, spring's not that far away. It's just kind of exciting.
No, we just have to deal with February and then March. Anything cold that happens in March, you have more mild days than any cold snap or snowstorm. It's usually pretty brief. So I say we got 4 more weeks, and we're getting there.
So, but what did the groundhog do today? I try and
this is the greatest scam in the history of anything.
It's a total scam.
It's Groundhog Gate. Punxsutawney Phil. It's 6 minutes. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes before sunrise. Poor fella gets plucked out of his hole and sees his shadow.
Supposedly.
And bites his handler on the ear.
Yeah, no, that was a different. That actually happened in Wisconsin. The mayor of some town in Wisconsin got bit. No, our groundhog here in Raleigh, North Carolina, the venerable Sir Walter Wally, did not today.
Neither did Staten Island Chuck.
Yeah. So I'm going with Wally.
Have you guys been around these groundhogs before? Those things are nasty.
Why
they used to eat them, James.
Yeah.
Why anyone would snuggle one of those things right up to their ear on live television?
Does anybody know where Puxatawny is?
It's in Pennsylvania.
No, I thought you would know, though.
It is in Pennsylvania. And
Is it outside of Philly?
No, it's outside of Pittsburgh. It's outside of Pittsburgh.
Really? Pittsburgh? Okay.
It's actually the biggest scam for a 6 a.m. party that exists. These guys are all wearing top. You ever seen pictures of them? They're wearing top hats, jackets, and they are toasted at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, brother.
I think it was all the camera lights. I think it was all the camera lights, all the hoopla that made him see his shadow. I think it's a big.
He always sees his shadow. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous.
Hey, James, you know what? You know what made me think that I missed JB tonight on the show because he would always have commented about the Super Bowl halftime show last night, and I know he would. I know he would have had a field day with last night's Katy Perry show.
The dancing turd.
His head would explode.
The more you star and everything else.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Dr. John, what's your pick of the week?
Well, we're going to go back to a snowstorm. Now, yesterday will be considered the Super Bowl blizzard in Chicago, but 4 years ago on Groundhog Day, the Groundhog Day blizzard. So my links that I'm recommending have to do with a summary and overview of what was an historic storm through the central United States and right across Chicago. 21.2 inches for the storm, third largest on record.
So if that's a winter storm on Groundhog Day, was that Winter Storm Phil?
Yes, the Weather Channel just renamed it.
All right, Paul. Now you've heard this foolishness here. Now you're not immune. You got to come up with a pick for us this week. So give us something, man. The floor belongs to you.
I have no idea.
He's off today.
Showtime. Yeah, he's off today.
Movies ever made?
You got like a Twitter account or a website or something. Surely you want to plug something here. He's got
Groundhog Day was a great movie.
Plug your book, Paul. Plug your book.
I'm blowing the foghorn here.
Volume 3, I'm working on it very, very slowly. But I keep getting new cases. Like, I got to collect the data on this one now.
There you go.
Tiring.
Job security.
Too many storms.
Hey, Nate, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is the story that I did for WRAL and WRAL.com, the High Performance Instrumented Airborne Platform for Environmental Research, a.k.a. HYPER, and the HYPER Cloud Radar, which made its, I kid you not, its maiden scientific voyage from right here in Raleigh, North Carolina. There you go.
RDU, baby.
There you go.
Very good. Very cool. All right. Let's see here. Bill Murray, what's your pick of the week? Hello, Bill.
Doom, 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 doom,
No.
doom.
You know, Bill just randomly hangs up on us. I'm just saying, I am blowing the foghorn. Not only does he have no pick, but he hangs up on us. Bill, you okay? I mean, you're just hanging up on us. I mean,
It's like the third time tonight. It's been awful.
We've
And it's
blown
always
the
right when you're.
foghorn.
It's almost always right when you're coming to me. That's what's hard. So
What's your
anyway,
pick, man? Go.
yeah, it's the Kin 10 2015 meeting in Bowling Green, Kentucky on March 21st. It's presented by the Ohio Valley chapter of the National Weather Association in conjunction with the Weather Service offices in Louisville, Paducah, Nashville, and Jackson, Tennessee. And it's going to be a great time. That's Saturday, March 21st from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Chevrolet Theater in the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And thanks very much to Ronald Malinowski for sending us that information. And that's my pick of the night, James.
All right. Let's see. Have we missed anybody here? I think we're actually going to get out on time, which is a shock. Goodness. So, again, Paul, thank you for being our guest. You're a good man to stay up so late. Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Just
Thanks
fall
for having
asleep
me.
now, Paul, and
We'll close it
show,
out.
we'll call you after the next 40-inch blizzard hits Boston in 10 days.
Yeah, this show puts a lot of people to sleep, and we got to wrap this thing here.
You can have nightmares now.
Yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, the email address, it's email@weatherbrains.com. All of our social media accounts are there, and I'll say up front that the web notes are going to be bad this week because I'm doing them, and I've got to edit the audio show. This could be, I just hope it gets up. If you wake up tomorrow morning and see if it's there, because the producer is off. He'll be back next week. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you listen by iTunes, we love those iTunes comments as well. We do this on Monday nights, typically at 9:30 Eastern, live.bigbrainsmedia.com. You can watch the video version live. On behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week, and God bless. We're out on time. This is exciting. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Yay, great show.
Good show.
Thanks.
Got to go edit now. Bye.
See you guys.